Okay, so there's a whole bunch of new rules for the Trump versus Biden debate. That's right, they're going to have a debate. Trump versus Biden. What are the rules and how will this impact third parties? Well, chances are third parties and independents will be given a middle finger, and nobody's really excited for a Trump versus Biden rematch. And just so you all know, that the debate should be taking place sometime this month. I believe it will be taking place on the 27th, to be more precise. And yes, June 27th is when the debate will be taking place. So, Trump versus Biden, what are the rules? How will this be a completely mediocre event that's going to make all of us sick to our stomach? So, U.S. President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump will get two breaks when they face off in a CNN debate this month and will not be allowed to talk to their campaign staff during the event, the network has announced. Biden and Trump agreed last month to a live debate at CNN studio in Atlanta, Georgia, on June 27th. The debate, the first head-to-head showdown of the 2024 election season, will be moderated by CNN hosts Jake Tapper and Dana Bash, with no studio audience present. So it's going to be one big snore fest. This is going to be completely pathetic to watch. CNN released a host of further details on Saturday, according to the network. Both candidates will stand at podiums chosen by a coin toss and will not be allowed any props or pre-written notes. Biden and Trump will both be given a pen, a pad of paper, and a bottle of water. Each candidate's microphone will be muted while the other speaks, and the 90-minute debate will be punctuated by 2 commercial breaks, during which Biden and Trump are forbidden from interacting with their campaign staff. The debate was organized after months of challenges from Trump, who said in March that he would face off against Biden anytime, anywhere, any place. After multiple non-committal responses, Biden released a video message last month calling on Trump to make my day, pal. Oh, boy. I don't know what kind of concoction you're going to use to make Biden spice up Democrats, but you better make sure it's potent and that it works properly. Biden and Trump agreed to the CNN debate on June 27th and an ABC News debate on September 10th, while Trump has also called on his opponent to accept 2 more debates on Fox News and NBC News before November's election. Trump and Biden debated twice before the 2020 election, with both candidates proclaiming victory. In the run-up to this year's debates, Trump has repeatedly ridiculed his 81-year-old opponent's propensity for verbal gaffes and slip-ups. Crooked Joe Biden is the worst debater I've ever faced. He can't put 2 sentences together, Trump said in a statement last month. Let's see if Joe can make it to the stand-up podium. Meanwhile, Biden told ABC News this month that he intends to let Trump say what he thinks, betting that the American public will be shocked by the former president's off-the-wall comments. CNN debate is open to any candidate who received at least 15% support in 4 separate national polls and is registered on the ballots in enough states to reach a 270 electoral vote threshold to win the presidency. Only Trump and Biden satisfy these requirements at present, although independent candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has received 15% in 3 polls and is on the ballot in 6 states, worth 89 electoral votes. So let's talk about third parties, because as I've said before, corporate media and the Democrats are fearful of third parties and independents.
To qualify for the debate, any candidate must satisfy the requirements outlined in Article 2, Section 1 of the U.S. Constitution, and they must file a formal statement of candidacy to the Federal Elections Commission. Both Mr. Biden and Trump have done so, as have third-party candidates Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Cornel West, and Jill Stein. And in addition, the candidates must appear on enough state ballots to reach the 270 electoral vote threshold to win the presidency. Currently, only Biden and Trump do. And finally, the candidate must receive at least 15% in 4 separate national polls of registered or likely voters that meet CNN's standards of reporting. Kennedy has received at least 15% on 3 qualifying polls so far, and he is on the ballot in 6 states, making him eligible for 89 electoral college votes. You'll be able to watch the debate right here on CNN, June 27th.
Isn't that special? But here's how people really feel. Record number of Americans dislike both Biden and Trump. That's true. A number of Americans who hold negative views of both the Republican and Democratic U.S. presidential candidates is the highest in at least 3 decades, according to a poll published by the Pew Research Center on Friday. According to the Pew Research, of 25% response have unfavorable views of both President Joe Biden and his main Republican frontrunner, Trump. 36% of response said they have a favorable view of Trump, but not Biden, while 34% said the opposite. The poll shows the highest share of double hater voters since the 1988 election, and almost twice as high as 2020 when Biden and Trump first ran against each other. During the 2020 election, the number of Americans that disliked both Trump and Biden was around 13%. And since the American people see that we have the bottom of the barrel representing us, since the American people see that we have a two-party system that doesn't give a damn about us and how we are able to make by, it is abundantly clear to me, and it should be abundantly clear to all of you, that no one is excited to see two old men fight over a cold bowl of potato soup. And that potato soup is America. And what's going on in America? Well, Americans are not able to make ends meet. Many people are going broke. Many people don't have enough money for a medical emergency. We have, again, a unchecked crisis at the border. We have not only two wars, we have numerous conflicts, potential conflicts that could lead up to the sequel we've all been dreading, World War III. We have unchecked corruption by our politicians. And Biden and Trump represent that two-party system. And each claims that they want to save democracy. The American people are not falling for this crap. And I've seen this kind of burnout before where no one just wants to be engaged at all. How do I know that? Because I live in the most corrupt city in the United States, the Windy City, Chicago. It's not that Chicagoans vote for this system. It's just that the system's so corrupt, no one wants to participate in it. And that's the thing. Many Americans just don't want to participate. Many Americans are burnt out. 50% of this country identifies itself as independent, but wait, how can independents or potential third-party voters vote when the two-party system does everything it can to prevent third parties from being on the debate stage, from being on the ballot? Continuing on, the poll was conducted on May 13th through the 19th before the back-to-back verdicts in the high-profile criminal trials of Trump and Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden. On May 30th, a New York jury found Trump guilty of falsifying business records to influence the 2016 election. Oh, my goodness. A politician, businessman doing something corrupt? Who knew? On June 11th, a Delaware jury found Hunter Biden guilty of violating federal gun laws when purchasing a revolver in 2018 while suffering from an addiction of that booger sugar, that white sugar, that stuff that made the 80s spin. Both Trump and the younger Biden denied any wrongdoing. The 2024 presidential election campaign has remained highly contentious, with both leading candidates accusing each other of causing irreparable damage to America and questioning each other's fitness for the office. Which, of course, then let's talk about other options. Is there another option? I want to pull up this video from CNN. I know CNN, and a media network that is tanking, and it should tank, in regards to how people are looking at third parties and independents, including RFK Jr. Now, I have my criticisms for RFK Jr. I am not a fan of his diehard support for the apartheid government in Israel. And as for Dr. Jill Stein, Dr. Cornel West, I could say this with absolute confidence, and I mean no disrespect, but maybe next time be more prepared. The Greens have ballot access, at least in 20 states, but I would expect the Greens to be more prepared. They've gone through this rodeo so many times, and the fact that right now they're being caught off guard with legal lawsuits going against them, the fact that they were unable to secure ballot access in New York State, Greens, get your game together. And same thing for Cornel West. Yeah, he's not going to make it to the debate stage. Now, ideally, I would like to see all the independent candidates be on the debate stage, to be up there on the podium. But I don't think that's going to happen.
Why would you take Kennedy?
The lesser of the three evils.
I wouldn't want Trump, and I wouldn't want Biden either. So, and not voting is not an option for me.
Honestly, at this point, it would be for his last name and for his family, the history of his family. Cornel West, I've done some research on, and he's a little too radical for me. Jill Stein, don't know much about, but with the last name Kennedy and the history in this country, I would put my vote there.
Well, that's why the Kennedy family has been so out there trying to say, please don't vote for our cousin, brother, uncle, whatever it may be, vote for Joe Biden. But this is a problem for both Biden and Trump, is trying to figure out where the third party candidacies will sap from. You see that the Trump campaign is very sensitive about it. Trump taking a lot of swings at Kennedy, including on being off where Trump says he should be on vaccines now, even though Trump has previously said similar things about vaccines. But the Biden campaign and the DNC, hugely concerned about Kennedy too.
Yeah, but but Biden though is not going after Kennedy the way Trump does. Trump goes, they rely on the campaign. The Biden does. They rely on the DNC, but the president himself stays away from directly going after RFK, unlike Trump, who is not afraid to go after him and call him a left-wing Democrat.
I'm saying he's very cognizant of elevating him. If he starts talking about him, it's going to bring him up to Biden's level, and they don't want to do that, which is why they're relying on all these external groups to, put up billboards to go after him, kind of on Biden's behalf, not with coordination.
I think it's beyond just the political strategizing with Biden. Remember, he has a bust of Robert F. Kennedy in the Oval Office on his desk. He feels a connection to that family. Teddy Kennedy was one of.
Oh, he feels a connection. You know how Biden is about feeling and going into people's personal space. I think we all know that we are very well aware about how people have been seeing Joe Biden and how he interacts with people. It comes as no surprise to me that Americans are tired of the two-party system, that Americans don't want to vote or see Trump versus Biden again. Now, to be clear here, Trump kept his political movement, his organization together, and that's what you should do as a candidate, especially when you create something as groundbreaking as what Trump did. And yes, I'm going to say it was groundbreaking because in comparison to Bernie Sanders or AOC or the Democrats, and yes, to some extent third parties, Trump kept his base motivated, energized, and ready to roll out when he stamped his feet for his legions to show up. And that's politics 101. You have to keep your movement together. However, again, as I said before, 50% of this country identifies itself as independent. Nobody likes the Democrats or Republicans, and that resentment is starting to grow. Many Americans who were either Democrats or Republicans are burnt out or either that looking at other options, which is why, even though I have my criticism, why RFK Jr. might be more appealing towards people who aren't engaged in our sphere or in our neck of the woods when it comes down to politics and giving commentary, especially for this 2024 election cycle. RFK Jr. has that appeal. He's not Trump. He's not Biden. Now, of all the independent candidates, he most likely has the best shot to maybe get on the debate stage. Will he show up for the CNN debate? The answer is most definite no. I don't see third parties or independents engaging with Trump or Biden. It's just not going to happen. And the best thing for independents, third party candidates to do is to do as many third-party independent debates as possible and make it happen. That means RFK Jr. show up on the stage with, I guess, the Libertarian candidate, the Green Party candidate, and Cornel West. Show up there. Or either that, give a response to the two-party debates with Trump versus Biden. But there is a need by Americans to break away and not be engaged with seeing Trump and Biden face off against each other. Now, RFK Jr. Will have to work double time, but notice how, again, corporate media has been on the attack, smearing and slandering third-party candidates, independents, because they don't want Americans to think for themselves. And, of course, Biden's going to capitalize on Trump going after RFK Jr., but that's not going to help out as much as Biden and his team might want, because at the end of the day, look at the engagement that the Democrats are having. Biden can barely fill up a stadium unless it is time to do a mega fundraiser where all the diehard, vote blue no matter who sycophants will show up. That's what's going to happen. As for Trump, he holds any event, his people will show up. That's what's going to happen there too. However, again, voter engagement. How many voters have been engaging in the primary? And I said this in the previous segment. It has been abysmal, especially for the Democrats, all-time low. Not to mention knowing how there's going to be numerous protest groups and activists and organizers that are going to be protesting the DNC convention here in Chicago. Democrats, you need as much support as possible in order for Biden to get potentially reelected. And for some reason, you guys have the big brain idea to antagonize people and start going after them and blaming them that if Biden doesn't win, it's their fault. Who's ever running the DNC, you're completely incompetent and you're not a serious person or persons, because I want to be inclusive.
of his best friends and mentors in the Senate. He does not want to go after Robert F. Kennedy Jr. personally. It's just not who he is as a guy. And then there's also the political considerations here.
He doesn't have to. Their infrastructure is in place in the left to go after him in a really robust way. We see all the way that they're challenging their ballot access across the country.
Mm-hmm.
So it would kind of be a waste of President Biden's time and energy to have to put a face to that, because he really doesn't have to. On the Republican side, they're way less organized in combating third-party efforts.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. But I also think that if we get to September and Kennedy seems to be taking votes from Biden, Biden will find a way to overcome his
Agree.
scruples about this.
This was conducted in North Carolina. In this group, 3 of 12 voters who voted for Biden say they regret voting for Biden in 2020. Remember, these are voters who voted for Trump in 2016, Biden in 2023 of 12 regretted voting for Biden in 2020. North Carolina, is it really on the map? Do we expect Biden's campaign to invest heavily there? This has been a complicated state for Democrats.
It is the Lucy in the football of states for the Democrats. But there are a lot of reasons why both the Trump campaign and the Biden campaign feels like it is going to be very competitive this year. Things that are going on with demographics, changes.
The governor's race there.
The governor's race. The attorney general's race, by the way, too. Abortion, which there's now a 12-week ban there in North Carolina. Those are all making the state very competitive in all the internal polls. Some of the internal polls showing that it's more competitive than Georgia.
Well, we shall see.
We shall see indeed. But no one's excited for the debates. No one's excited for these new rules for how it's going to play out. I don't know whether or not Biden will be able to pull on through or what kind of new concoction he's going to have, but I'll have democracy in the chat. Let's have democracy in the chat. Will you be watching the debates? Type 1 for yes, Kit. This will be an important debate. Trump versus Biden. The fate of democracy, the fate of our republic, lies in us watching these two people fight, and we must support Joe Biden in this fight. I type 2, man, I ain't wasting my time. I'll just check out the highlights later if it's worth watching. I don't want to see an old man crap his pants. I don't want to see 2 old men crap their pants. There you go. Got to be inclusive. I wonder how many 2s are going to be in chat. And people say I rig my elections. I don't. I just give you guys a real clear choice. That's all. But, however, Trump, Biden, no one wanted to see this rematch. And we could thank nutless wonders, people who never chose to stand up and fight back against the DNC. And yes, I'm going to say this. After the 2016 and 2020 primaries, it is quite clear that those who told us that we got to support Democrats were never really serious, never really cared about, bringing a ruckus or changing anything. What they wanted us to do was be subservient and vote, fall in line, and not challenge the system. Democrats, good luck. I'm going to be laughing at you guys, especially as you keep on crying on social media, screaming on social media that we have to vote blue. We have to vote for Biden. Why should we? Why should we be excited about, the bottom of the barrel? Why should we be looking forward to supporting candidates that don't have our best interest? Because no matter what happens, no matter who sits in the White House, Goldman Sachs has the final say. That's the truth of it all. The top 1%, the corporate donors, are still going to win. And that's why we have to start building movements and organizations not connected to Washington, D.C. Because if you're sick and tired of watching the same repeat of Democrats versus Republicans, it is time for us to take the initiative to break away from it. Support ballot initiatives and start building something. Let's start building real movements of change, not connected to the two-party system, because it doesn't have our best interest at heart. And, at this point, even I'm burnt out by this election. I had some high standards, and I just remembered that those standards are way too high because this is Washington, D.C. we're talking about. We have to look elsewhere. We cannot vote our way out of this problem. We have to start looking at other alternatives so that we can have a better future.